Hi, my name is Minda Hart, and you're here with us for Secure the Seat Live. Every Monday, you have lunch with me and one of our leaders here. I'm so excited to introduce you to Daphne E. Jones. Welcome, Daphne. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and it's great to have virtual lunch with you.
I'm loving it. One day we'll have to do it in real life, but this is as good as we get right now.
Yeah, I know.
I
Good to
love
see
it.
you.
I love it. And if you're joining in for the first time or the fifth time, we really appreciate you having lunch with us today. We're actually going to talk about how to get board ready, because I know that many of our leaders watching that are Black women, women of color, or even our men that are watching are looking for an opportunity to get board ready. And there's so many things that you can start preparing yourself for right now. So if you have any questions, make sure if you're watching us on LinkedIn or you're watching us on YouTube that you put your information in there, because we have the expert here herself. So Daphne, tell everybody a little bit more about you.
Yeah, well, I am born of immigrant parents. So my mom and dad were from Jamaica. They really valued education. So when I was at home, they made sure that I learned how to bring 2 plus 2 rocks from the alley into the house. And if I brought anything more than 2 plus 2 rocks, she would spank me. So it was really a very interesting childhood to grow up with a focus on education and learning. I skipped first grade as a result of all of her helping, and grew up, ended up becoming a secretary for Women's Day magazine because my high school counselor told me that I could not do anything else but be a secretary. So I did that for about a semester, went on to college and proved him wrong. I got my bachelor's degree in 3 years, got my MBA in 1 year, and I started my career in technology with IBM in Peoria. And that was back in 1979. So I'm an OG, I guess, as they call it. And so been doing it for a really long time. And I've been CIO, senior vice president. I just retired from GE Healthcare when I was one of their large CIOs just a couple of years ago. And now I serve on 3 public boards. I've served on not-for-profit boards as well, but I serve on 3 corporate boards. My husband's a pastor, so I'm a first lady as well. We have kids, and so we've done the whole thing from beginning to end. But I'm just proud to be here on your show and be able to talk about what it takes to be on a
Yeah.
board.
Oh, you wear a lot of hats, and so I appreciate you you being here with us today. And you are the right person to ask these questions. Now, you've had a very impressive corporate career, Daphne. What are some of the roles that you touched on them, but what were some of the roles that helped you prepare for serving on a corporate board?
Yeah, it's when I think about it, I would basically say all of my roles. My expertise has been in technology, and one of the things that board members do is they all have a specialty. Some were lawyers, some may have been doctors, may have been M&A specialists, some may have been people that know how to take a company public from being private. And so my skill has been in technology, and I've been all those roles: VP, CIO, et cetera. And if you think about it, the role of IT is really to do 3 things. Number one is to understand and help the business leaders define their business strategy and their true north regarding how are they going to serve the market, who's their competition. So the IT leader has to understand that. That's number one. Number two, the IT person has to understand, how does business work? How do we sell? How do we market? How do we manufacture? And then they take that knowledge of supply chain and selling and R&D, and then they digitize those services and the capabilities so that it makes it easy for the customers to get what they want to get, and it makes it easy and productive for the internal employee. So there's an external component, an internal component. So as a board member, if you deconstruct that, what's required for a board member is you got to know the business. You've got to understand how to create or validate a business strategy. You have to have P&L knowledge. You have to be able to influence. You have to have a good mindset. You have to understand about human capital. And, because I had to hire people. And when you're on a board, the senior leadership team has to hire people as well. But the difference is that as a board member, you are no longer an operator. You are used to do that. And because you used to do that, you know how to provide guidance to those operators that are in the company that do have to produce. So as a board member, you provide guidance. I did that as a CIO. You have to provide recommendations. I did that as a CIO. You have to challenge. You have to ensure integrity of your operations. Did that as a CIO. You have to ensure that you have good internal control. So everything that I did in my past life is really what has enabled me to be a board member. What I bring to the table is cybersecurity knowledge. What I bring to the table is digital transformation capability and experience, so that the companies I'm on the board for now, I can help them become digitally fluent and digitally literate as it relates to what they want to do in the marketplace with cyber or digital. Hope that makes sense.
Yes, it absolutely does. And people are, I see them in the chat. They're like, yes, more information, more information. And I know that I know right now a lot of companies are making commitments to diversify their boards, right? So there's probably some women watching right now saying, what do I need to do right now to prepare myself for that seat? I know you run some training as well, so maybe you can talk about some tangible, like, kind of next steps that they could start thinking about or doing, and then also in terms of investing in themselves, how they can connect with you and your program.
Sure, that's absolutely great. I think people say, I want to be on a board of directors. It's almost like saying, I want to be a mother. You know, you've never been one, and you just think you know what it is until you actually do it. So I would say, number one, understand what boards are. Understand what do they do? Why do they exist? And what are the different kinds of boards that are there, so that you can say, you know, I'm really for a public board, I'm for a private board, I want to work in the chemical business, I want to work in government, I want to work in management consulting boards. So that's one, understand what boards are and what they do. Number two, decide that whether you want that or not, and what kind of board you want to gravitate to. But more importantly is, what is your special gift that you bring that will be valuable to a board? There are people that know how to take a company public and, you know, help them with their IPO. Or maybe a company needs to go from being only national or domestic to being global. Or because of the war on talent, you know, you may have a skill in human capital management. So whatever your digital or your cultural advantage is, you would then say, this is what I can offer to a company. Number three, I would say, ensure that your digital story lines up with that of being a board member. Many people have their LinkedIn profiles or their bios or their CVs that really say, I would make a great vice president, or I would make a great CEO. But your digital information needs to show that you know how to think like perhaps an operator, but you know how to govern like a board member. Because digital is one way that they will find you. The other way that they will find you is, you got to tell everybody in your ecosystem that you want to be on a board, and make sure that they support you. That could be your boss. If you're working today and not retired like me, does your boss support you being on a public board? Does your family support you being on a public board? Tell your friends, tell your search firms, tell everyone that you know. I used to joke, and I would say, support you being on a public board. Tell your friends, tell your search firms. Here they go. Let me see if it's gone. Okay, I think it's gone. Yeah, I would jokingly say that I would tell the valet that parked my car at a restaurant, you know, I'm looking for a board. So you tell everybody. And then finally, I would say, research your own company, whatever company you work for. If you work for a small company, large company, research your company online and see what the analysts say about your company, and see who the board members are. And if you were attempting to join the board of your company, what questions would you ask the chairman? What questions would you ask the CEO? And what questions might they ask you? So I am creating a board preparation course called The Boardwalk, where our goal is going to be to walk a person from wherever they are to where they're ready for that phone call from the board themselves, from a search firm, from friends. And they can go on my website, DaphneEJones.com, and you can read about Boardwalk. But I think those are the 5 things that you do. Make sure you know what board you want to be on, why you want to be on a board. Make sure your digital story lines up, tell everybody that you know, and then kind of do a mock trial situation with exploring your own company and seeing what information you can find out about your company.
Oh, you drop so many gems out there. I can hear like the pens and the computers just like typing away in the virtual space. And I'll make sure that I post Daphne's information so that you can get connected with the Boardwalk. Let's take a couple questions from people in the audience right now. One person says, how do you deal with imposter syndrome when you're the only Black woman or woman of color at the board table?
Great question. In fact, I've dealt with imposter syndrome ever since my high school counselor told me that I would be nothing but a secretary. Every time that I am not doing secretarial things, I believe that, oh my God, he's going to find out that, I'm not doing what he told me to do. And I think having my husband as a pastor has been very helpful to me, not to bring faith into this, but, I can do all things, through Christ that strengthens me. And so part of it is having your faith. That's important. And having sponsors and role models who continually speak into your life. If you have no one speaking into your life, then you're giving out a lot and you're not getting anything back. So it's having role models, it's having sponsors, it's having mentors, and being able to follow those role models and see, well, how do they lead? What are they reading? What are the things that they're doing? How are they growing? And, you didn't get to where you are only by yourself, and nor did I. So I think it's part of just having people that you can follow. And if they did it, you can as well. And that you got to where you are by, learning the job. And I talk about this all the time. You learn the job, you do the job, then you transform the job. And it's about doing these mini transformations, that first market, that first promotion, that first whatever it is, shows that you've got the stuff to get there. And if you can get there, you can get there at scale. And so it's all about just having faith in yourself and faith in why you were created.
Yeah, preach, preach, preach. Yes, I love it. Another question that we have from the audience is, do I need to be at a certain level in my company to be considered for a board role at a publicly traded company? Good question.
That's a great question. Great question. There are some people that are 35 years old that are on boards. They're rare. Sometimes they are part of the family of the company that founded, the company. Usually you have to have easily 20, 30 years of business experience. I am in my 60s, and I got onto my boards at that age. So usually you have to have at least a vice president, usually a senior vice president title, and that kind of lets you know how old or how much experience you need to have. If you're at Google, maybe you don't have to be a senior vice president because Google is so large, or Amazon, $1 trillion, $1.5 trillion market cap company. You may be able to just only be a VP or a director at a company that size. So it just depends. But usually you have to have enough experience where you sat in the C-suite yourself for the most part, and you have had as your peers were the CFO, your peers were the CEO, your peers were the chief marketing officer. That's usually what you have to have. And if you don't have that yet, you can get on a not-for-profit board where you don't have to have that C-suite experience, but you can still get some experience being on a board, even if it isn't a for-profit or corporate board.
Okay. It's funny that you say that, because I see a lot of questions in the audience saying, what's the difference between a nonprofit board and a corporate board? And could the nonprofit be a stepping stone to the corporate board?
Absolutely. I was on the board of Thurgood Marshall, where you guys have probably all heard. It's almost like you've heard of Thurgood Marshall, and you've also heard of UN's United Negro College Fund. So those are companies or organizations that are not for profit that help serve the community. I was on a board of an art museum, Urban League. And so those are absolutely stepping stones. A not-for-profit board is usually one that does just that. It serves the community and doesn't try to make money to truly earn a profit. A corporate board has to have, if you are in the public realm, like you have companies that are on New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, you serve on companies that are regulated by the Security and Exchange Commission, the SEC. Those are companies that are required by law to have a board of directors. And those board of directors have to mostly be independent, meaning they don't work for the company. They're not a family member of the company. They are truly independent outside. And that way they can serve on behalf of the shareholders, who is really the ones that are investing in that public company.
Yeah.
That's a different thing.
Okay. No, that's wonderful. I know the chat, I don't know if you could see it, Daphne, but it's like blowing up over here. At least on LinkedIn, I can see that one from the corner of my eye. But the one thing that you touched on was transformation. And I know that you're a big proponent of transformational leadership. Why are the first 90 days significant to make to the impact of a leader? I know you talk about the first 90 days being really important. I know that can be on a board, that could be at your new job as a manager, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no matter where you are, even as a newlywed, the first 9 days I think is important just across the board because you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And whether it's your boss is looking at you, your board is looking at you, if you're at that level where, the board has visibility to your coming on board or you're being given that next level up, your peers are looking at you, your teams are all looking at you at the same time. And it's in that time frame that you show whether or not you will quickly understand and be able to do the job that you just got. It's about trajectory to me. If you look at the x-axis in a chart, and then you look at the y-axis or the vertical axis, and if the x-axis is time, right, and the y-axis is outcomes, you got to demonstrate that you have a fairly almost a vertical slope where it doesn't take you that much time to get your handle on the job, but that you can demonstrate that in the first 90 days that you are learning 80% or some high number of the key constructs of the job. So you're learning the job. And then they need to see that you can do the job. You're solving the burning problems that exist in the company. You're delivering some new results. You're motivating your team with a strategy. They need to see that you're just not waiting around passing time. And then finally, you want to plant those seeds that say, oh, she's just not going to do the job, or he's just not going to do the job. He's going to transform the job. He's going to make the job even bigger and better than it was when they came in. And they can kind of start to see that in the 90 days. And then when they're not paying attention to you anymore, they can turn their sights to something else. So the 90 days is important to show that you can learn the job, do the job, and know that you're going to be able to transform the job.
I like that concept of transforming the job, not just doing the job, right? Like we can do the job, we can do the job, but can we transform the job? Which I really love that mindset.
But you know what? And on top of that, there's something that I don't know if you guys have heard of Harvey Coleman. I actually have his book over there. It's about organizational games revealed and how to empower yourself. And many people, even my mother, when she said, Daphne, just do your job great and everything will be fine. They'll notice you. Well, yeah, maybe. Performance is good, but Harvey Coleman talks about performance, image, and exposure. So if you perform your job, you deliver early or you deliver on time, you do something that should have taken 5 months, do it in 3 months, whatever. That's your performance. But your image is your brand. How you're showing up in the market, how you're showing up with your teams. Are you selfish? Do you think about them before you think of yourself? Are you a team player? Are you always complaining? Are you always late? Or are you always early? Right? That's your image. Then your exposure is who knows you and who do you know? Who cares about you? Who will speak about you when you're not in the room and when you're not on Zoom? And so having those people that understand you and care about you, that's how you get promoted, not only by doing your job. If you do your job, you got noticed. Okay. But now if somebody wants to speak on your behalf, if they don't know you and they won't speak on your behalf. So it's performance, image, and exposure as you look at transforming your company and your organization.
Yeah, that's really a revolutionary thought because I feel as though, yes, right, even right now, many of us, who are still in traditional workplaces may say, oh, I'm going to do my job, right? But if you're thinking about how do I kind of stand out from the pack, right? How am I going to be a trailblazer? Then you have to think about that transformation process, right?
Yeah.
I really love that. That's so good. I love it.
Absolutely.
The other thing that I wanted to jump into is our bonus questions, and then we'll take a few more from the audience. But Daphne, I am a lover of grits and rap lyrics, and I have to bring that piece of me to the work that I do. Oh, well, first of all, do you eat grits?
I used to. I put sugar and butter in them. Are they still grits when you do that?
I think that's more like hot cereal, but I won't hold it against you.
Oh,
Okay. But you've given some really good gems, so I'm not gonna hold against that you put sugar in your grits. But do you have a favorite rap lyric and why?
Oh, wow. I am, I love Cardi B, but I really can't talk about her. I can't talk about her lyrics, so we won't go there. So because I'm back in the day girl, Heavy D is always my guy. And he has this song, and I almost work out to it almost every morning. And it's called We Got Our Own Thing. Every morning I'm on the elliptical, right? And it helps me keep my beat. And one of the things he says is, understand this, before you make a comment, there's always a meaning in every Heavy D statement. In this life, I strive for improvement. Be your own guy, follow your own movement. Don't clock anybody, let them all clock you. Don't be down with anybody, let them all be down with you. Stay self-managed, self-kept, self-taught. Be your own man, don't be borrowed, don't be bought. He started with a pow, he gonna end it with a bang. He got his own thing. And so he's really talking about being yourself, being authentic. Don't be a follower. And of course, you got to follow your leadership and all that, but you also want to have your own authentic space and place and strive for improvement, level up. That's what level up is all about. And follow your mind, follow your heart. And so he's my guy. Even though he's dead, may he rest in power, but he's been my guy for a long time.
Yes, that was just what we needed for the Monday. Good for the soul. Thank you, Daphne, for that. And
who is yours?
What's mine?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I have so many. But right now, it's probably a Drake song. Let me see. Working every day, working on the weekends as usual. That's kind of like the vibe, right?
Yeah. That was me.
And right now I'm working on book 2, and I'm working on the weekends like usual, trying to like get that word count. So that's kind of where
I understand. I hear you. God bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then the last question that I have for you before we take a couple of last minute questions from the audience is, what is one tip that you would give leaders on how to make the workplace better than we found it?
Well, it's interesting, now people work from home and people live at work. And so the workplace in a way is different, but no matter what's going on there, I think collectively people need to not be partial leaders, but be whole leaders, bring the whole leader to work. And that's our head, that's our heart, and that's our guts. And when I think about, and there's a book I love to read, there's a book called Head, Heart, and Guts. I forgot who it's by, but I read it some time ago. And head is about strategic thinking. It's about understanding global complexities, taking a long view while at the same time you plan in the short term. It's about being intellectually curious, driving results, executing, things like that. So it's about, having your head on, but it's also about your heart. It's about being empathetic in the workplace. It's creating trust, in other people. How do you develop compassion in a diverse workplace? How do you drive inclusion? How do you drive belonging? Which all we're looking for when you look at the George Floyd situation. Emotional intelligence, allowing people to be their best selves, and bring your heart to work at the same time as you bring your head. And then when you think about your guts as a leader, it's about challenging the status quo. Just because that's how they used to do it doesn't mean they got to do it that way in the future. How do you bring new solutions to old problems? And how do you persevere when times are tough? How do you show the guts and the grit and the resilience to be able to keep going even when you are facing adversity? So if you can do all those things, not only are you a great role model for people who are looking at you, you're also going to be able to help your company with its culture and help the company with its ability to deliver in the marketplace.
Boom, boom. Take all of those tips, and I just love everything that I'm going to be listening to our replay on repeat, because you've dropped so many gems, and I mean the chat is going wild here. I want to ask you one last question from the audience, and then we'll wrap up with how people can find you, hire you, work with you, support you, all the things. Someone wants to know, what are your thoughts around ageism and how to navigate that?
Ageism. Well, it's interesting now that there is a war on talent. My son is a millennial. He's 32 years old, and a lot of millennials are trying to decide if they want to stay working for corporate America or if they want to do their own thing, right? And more and more, the elderly, the people who are aged, like me, are being asked to come back, and because we have experience, we have skills, we have know-how, we have work ethic, and things like that. And so to me, ageism is a blessing in a way, because as the millennials and the Gen Zers and all those kind of decide what they want to do, here we are looking for things that can help us stay active and stay healthy and stay viable. So that's what ageism means to me. And I believe that it's a positive thing the way I look at it. And so I hope I answered the question. Was there two parts to the question?
No, they just, I think right now some people may get in their head, right, about am I too young? Am I too old, to go after my dreams? And
No.
There's never, age is just a number, right? I mean, I know it's real in the context of some organizations, but I do feel like right now there are no rules, right?
Yeah. And you've got to be relevant. I mean, I retired 2 or 3 years ago, and so I'm not a CIO anymore. I haven't written a bit of code. I couldn't write a code to save my life, but I am on the Accenture Cybersecurity Forum. I'm a member of Digital Directors Network. I do work with NACD, with Deloitte. I mean, you got to keep relevant. So whether you're young or old, you have to say, what is the space I want to play in, and how can I read as much, learn as much, absorb as much, and then so I can give back as much in a relevant way to whoever I want to be working with. So when you're done learning, you're done. So you have to learn, unlearn, and relearn so that you can continue to add value in whatever space you go in. So it's not about being stagnant. It's about being active, and then you can be resilient.
Yes. Mic drop. Daphne, you can have lunch with me any day of the week. How can people find you and support you and work with you?
Sure. My website is daphneejones.com. And you can find me on Instagram, Daphne E. Jones Official. I think that's what it is. And I'm also on Twitter as well. So you can write me at daphneejones.com.
Awesome. And I know, again, they can find out more about if you're just joining us, about Boardwalk, right? Is that on your website as well?
Boardwalk is on my website. And I hope to launch it in the fourth quarter.
Okay, so you know what to do. Get information, ladies and gentlemen. Get on that Boardwalk. Again, Daphne, it was such a pleasure to have you on Secure the Seat Live. Wishing you nothing but success. And please know that I'm here to support any way I can as well. So I'll see all of you next Monday. Daphne, just any final words? I want to give you the last opportunity to say anything.
Best wishes to everybody here. Know that if you can think of it, it must be in your spirit to do it. And you were created for a reason, and just let that reason be known to everybody, and do not be shy. Like Heavy D would say, we got our own thing.
We got our own thing. Put that on repeat today. Let that sink into your soul, and we'll see you next Monday at noon. Make sure you share this with those. I know this will really inspire people to go into their week. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.